talk a little bit about crystals. What I'm going to do is condense a crystal grid workshop down into an hour. Or maybe even less.
Yes.
11 minutes. I feel like I'm in a Baptist church. Yes! Yes! All right. Have to give your praises soon. Praise Hayashi.
Amen.
Preaching family. Okay. First of all, I want to talk about crystals in general. We're going to deal today with only clear quartz crystals. And we're going to do that because they essentially have the same makeup as amethyst or rose quartz or whatever else you want to talk about. The only difference is they're pure. They have no additional element. Amethyst, purple. Consequently, that means that it's absorbing the light spectrum and reflecting purple back. Very attuned to that energy. Solid, clear quartz, such as this beautiful specimen that Michael brought up with him. His wife Dale's his favorite crystal, and will soon be buried underneath it now. I like that. This is pure, clear, clean quartz. And this is just a beautiful example of it. This will absorb a much broader spectrum of energy than any other kind of quartz. So this is what we're going to deal with in our discussion of it here today. Let's talk about terminations first of all. On the sheet are listed a number of different termination type patterns. I'm going to give you a brief overview of these. The two things at the top are called low relief termination patterns. What a termination pattern will do is reveal the molecular structure of the crystal and how it was formed, which can give you a very clear indication of what its energy structure is as well. These will be located on the facets of a crystal, on these faces right here. And you can really learn a lot from looking at them. And also, more importantly, you can find ones that you're very resonant with and that you're very attracted to work with them. If you ever see ones like are on the left side of this page, or the right side of this page, excuse me, my left, that have pyramids or triangles sort of on the facet, my goodness, buy them, buy them, buy them, buy them. And you do that because, again, pyramids are energy accumulators. So what you have here is an exceptionally powerful crystal. So be constantly on the lookout for that. Also, with this, we have left and right hand crystals. You can tell those by this little facet here, which is called an X facet, and which will give you a great deal of indication. Now, there's differences between left and right-handed crystals. Left-handed crystals have a stronger tendency to ingather energy, to maintain it within its structure, to collect energy and maintain it within its structure. And as you can imagine, right-handed crystals do exactly the opposite. They're excellent energy emitters. So they're fantastic to use in all kinds of healing things. Writing here. Double terminated versus single terminated. This is a single terminated. A double terminated is what Tom was passing around earlier, where it has a second point down here. My gosh, I couldn't imagine what this would be like with a double terminated crystal. I probably wouldn't be holding it. There's a main difference here. The energy flow of a crystal goes from the base out through the tip. It's emitted through the tip. So the construction of the facets we'll talk about in a moment here. It's very important to the beam of energy that's emitted, to the purity and the integrity of that beam of energy. Also important to the length of the body, and we'll discuss that a little bit. But a single terminated quartz crystal, the energy is only directed one way. I mean, this is the direction of travel of the energy. It goes from the base up through the tip. Now, a double terminated crystal, that's different. Double terminated crystals have a bidirectional energy flow. You can shoot it, it goes in and out of both tips, as well as collecting from within the body itself. Okay? So you can easily charge a double terminated crystal by directing it at its central body, and it will emit that energy out of both tips. That's kind of an extra little thing. As we go through the rest of these, let's talk about these various facet configurations that we have here. The first one is this one right here, which is in the middle row all the way to your right. Actually, no. Let's go down to the bottom left-hand side. Equal facets, it's labeled. Equally sized facets are very rare. I mean, what you're looking at here is a perfectly balanced crystal. It has a laser-like emission that's incredibly focused and maintains an incredible degree of integrity. It's very useful. It's a sort of an aura surgery type thing from a healing standpoint, although it can be used in gridworks very effectively. What you're really looking for gridworks is the one right next to it, which is labeled alternating facets. And what that means is alternating large and small facets. This is a much more powerful emitter than the equally sized facets. However, its beam of focus isn't quite as laser-like. It isn't quite as pinpoint. It's a little bit more diffuse. It's still very balanced. It's still a very powerful design. This is, the kingpin crystal of choice to find to use in gridwork. The crystal all the way to the end has the one large facet. Anytime you find these are excellent direct on the body stones because most of the energy is emitted from that one large facet. So what you have is the ability to program a crystal with a various type of energy and set it on a chakra, set it on an energy point, be it an acupressure point or whatever. And it's a very nice tool for using tomorrow. The one right above that, which is labeled double termination with multiple crystals on one end, what that should be is double termination with double terminations on one, with multiple terminations on one end. Notice that you have a lot of terminations on the bottom side of it. Well, what you can do with this is a mixer. This is a natural blender. You see the soundboards and all of that I dealt with for so many years. Well, this is a crystal that's the equivalent of that. What you can do is take saran wrap, and if you're blocking light vibration, then something like aluminum foil would be as well. And mask off all but the crystal point on the bottom that you want to program. You can program that with light, sound, color, energy, whatever. And you can program each one of them differently. And it will mix in the body of the crystal and it will emit a nice harmonic blend of whatever energies you put into it. They're kind of a rare crystal to come across. They're pretty prized by healers, by people that heal with crystals.
Jeff,
Yeah.
what happens if you have a crystal that has like a double termination on the top with multiple on the bottom?
It's a much less balanced emitter. It's pretty. It's not real useful. Unless you can find a way, unless it has some kind of divisive structure within it, and you can find a way to make it almost like a stereotype effect. But that would be very rare. In general, when selecting crystals, you're looking for, nice, long, thick bodies. Long, thin bodies don't do too much for you in terms of power. The little long, thin crystals that you see. Tom has a very exceptional one, but it has some unique qualities. First of all, it's double terminated. Second of all, one of the double termination ends has a second termination that acts almost like a battery pack. And, excuse me, and an accumulator for the other tip. So he has a very powerful laser wand type thing going. It's a very unique energy dynamic. In general, what you're looking for is not a long, thin crystal. It's just not as powerful. What you want is, here's a nice, large body. You'd like it to be more symmetrical than this, certainly. But this is where the energy is accumulated. This is where it's blended. So the more mass you have here, the more powerful crystal you have, consequently. And then it's focused in the terminations and emitted up the tips. So the quality of the terminations is also very important. You don't want a lot of chips. You don't want a lot of breaks. You want just a beautiful termination. Of course, all of them are hexagrams. All of them have 6 facets and 6 sides. That's just standard stuff. Oh, let's see. What else can we tell you here? Let's get into cleansing crystals. There are a lot of different ways to do it. My personal method of choice is to hold a crystal under cold running water. And as I do that, I visualize the water as being white light energy as well. And I see it as coming in, white light energy into the top of the crystal, totally immersing it and coming out of the bottom. And it's usually murky as it's coming out of the bottom. And I keep the visualization up, I keep the water running over it until, in my visualization, and this is sort of my intuitive knowing way, it's as clean coming in and going through it and going out as possible. And then I know that it's reasonably good and clean. So I take it from that stage and I dip it and I leave it for 48 hours in a sea salt solution. It's a saturated sea salt solution, which means you pour sea salt into water until it starts collecting on the bottom, no matter how hard you stir and all that. And then, so I immerse the crystal in that. What that does is draws energy from very, very deeply, negative energy especially, from very, very deeply from within the deepest energetic structure of the crystal to the surface. And when you pull it out of there, it'll be very tacky, it'll be very sticky, you'll be thinking, my goodness, well, I haven't cleansed this thing at all, it's gross. That's when you have to run it into the water again. That's when you again repeat that running water visualization and it just washes all of that off and it leaves you with the cleanest, purest crystal you're going to find anyway. Some people use energy. Irving First, my friend in California, gave me an attunement where you can just run energy real quick. But I haven't quite found it as effective as the old line method, so I don't use it as much as I should. Other people will set them out on their porch, on their roof, and let them accumulate sunlight. Some people do this all day and then set them out in the morning and then bring them in the evening, so that when the sun goes down, they've got this huge energy field beaming that energy into their space, which is kind of a neat thing to do, especially in the winter. Other people will charge them and purify them in moonlight, leaving them out, be prepared obviously for the corresponding, more moody type emotional energy that will go along with that. Other good ways to cleanse it include burying it. Leave it down there for 48 hours. The earth does a tremendous job of grounding energy out of things, and it'll purify anything you put in there, including crystals. Shaking it off is another really good method to use. Most people who can see the energy of crystals clean them just by flinging them off, just as they would water. I cannot see the energy of crystals. I can feel the energy of crystals in terms of like a slimy or tactileness on the surface. So that's beneficial for me. But the clairvoyants, some of the clairvoyants that I do research with, they'll just look at a crystal and instead of spending 3 days cleaning it, they just kind of go, okay, we're good. Gee, thanks. So that's certainly one way. If you're thorough enough about shaking it out in every conceivable way, then theoretically you can do that as well, or use your inner knowing. Visualization, you can also just do the white light visualization things and all the usual stuff along those lines as well. But again, my favorite method is the one that I detailed, washing it off first, then soaking it in the sea salt, and then washing it off again. And that leaves the thing so sparkling, it's remarkable. Okay. Let's move on to charging and attuning crystals. Oddly enough, the attunement process for a crystal is relatively simple. And what it involves is taking, and if you want to do a violet breath into it, you can. It's not absolutely necessary. I usually do. And if you're not familiar with the violet breath, we'll get into that a little bit later on tomorrow. Essentially, taking and tracing out each symbol over the top of the crystal and guiding it in down through the tip and watching it expand to fill the entire body of the crystal. And doing that with all of the symbols that you want to attune it to. And then, oddly enough, doing the other side. So, front and back to make it much more powerful, which is an interesting little thing. So that is by far the most effective way to attune. Now when I talk about attuning a crystal, essentially what I'm talking about is just making it more resonant to Reiki. Taking it from whatever energetic structure